Hello people. Today we're going to talk about collecting in general. I collect a lot of stuff. I got to tell you, my house is full of collections. So in commemoration of my first Zalmex commercial airliner video, we're going to talk about things that I've collected on trips, mostly on trips over the years. So the first thing I want to show you is my collection of passports. So what is a collection? Let's talk about that real quick. A collection is a specific group of things, but to be a collection, you have to have 3 of something or more. I have 3 items here that are identical. They're passports. They're all my passports. And then this one is an international driving permit, which isn't a passport, but it does directly relate with this, so it kind of fits into the collection. This is no longer valid. If I wanted to go overseas and drive somewhere, I would need to get a new permit. This, like a passport, is a book. In several different languages, it talks about the rules and regulations of driving in all the different countries that this permit is valid in. And I use this while traveling in Germany. And I also had a permit in Greece, but I don't think it was under this. Now, when you open this portion of it, what that will show you is my picture and my signature and all my information, which is very similar to this first page, which I'm not going to show you. But I am going to show you the stamps that I got. This was the earliest trip that I took to Greece, is 1985. There's not a whole lot of stamps in this book, but enough. I think that's good. Oh, there's one more. Oh, and there's another one. But it's the paper that I thought was really interesting. Notice the bell pattern. This is an attempt to thwart forfeits, copies. And on this one, again, more trips to Europe, to Greece, 1991, 1996. But if you'll notice, the paper on this one has a whole different pattern. So this was taken in a different time period. And then this is my most recent one, but it's probably not valid anymore, although it's not stamped. These markings right here tell an official that if you show this to somebody, these stamps tell them that this is no longer a valid passport. So although this one is still suggesting that it's good, it really isn't. It's just too old. I need to get a new one. But this one, again, has different paper, different background to paper. It's a lot more obvious. So that's my passport collection. All right. So when I went to these countries, specifically Greece, they got these phone cards, and these phone cards have all different kinds of artwork on them that people in the area would collect. And I'm sure a lot of tourists collected them too, but I saw the kids in the area collect these cards like baseball cards. And it's probably because once tourists were done with them, they would throw them away, discard them, throw them on the ground, and the kids would pick them up and collect them because of the artwork, which is really cool. And for some kids, they probably didn't get to visit all these different islands. And, this was just a way of collecting a part of their history. I've got tons of these. Tons of them. These are actually not pictures. These are artwork that you would see in a museum. And then this one, I'm not sure if this is museum art or not, but funny for a calling card. All right, that's my collection of calling cards. I got a bunch of those. I got tons more than just that. I just don't have time to really show you all of them. All right, these are declaration tags for firearms. When you get on an airplane and travel somewhere, if you're traveling with a firearm, you have to declare that firearm. And when you do that, you get this tag, and the agent puts this tag with the firearm. And I've flown with a firearm with Northwest, NWA, Delta, Continental, American Airlines. And the other side is the actual form, Atlantic, Southwest. So I've got a huge collection of these tags. All right. Sorry, my nose is a little stuffy. All right, I keep all these little these armbands that you get when you go to shows, or something that has to be pinned on. I keep them because for most of these events, I had to pay to get in, for one, but two, keeping this is a reminder of that experience. This was the first toy show that I ever went to 2 years ago. I missed this year's show, but this was last year's show, and I did a video about it. That was a really cool show. I really enjoyed that, and I want to make more in the future. I just got to find the time. All right, here's a Shark Tank tag. I applied to be on Shark Tank once. Did horrible. I did absolutely pathetic, but that was my tag. This was, I was working for a gun manufacturer, and this was the little tag that you put on your shirt that tells the people at the door that you're an exhibitor, so you don't have to pay to get in. And this was mine. And I love the 1911, and this was my number, which is so funny. 4445. Back in the 90s, when I was in the military, these were tags that I had to wear to gain access to certain tents during medical exercises. I was a trainer, and so these tags basically granted me access to anywhere I wanted to go. All right, in the spirit of military, I have a collection of coins here. Here's the first military coin that I was ever given. This was given to me by the commanding general of the 83rd ARCOM, which is now dismantled. It was turned into the 88th ARCOM. That was my old military unit. And here is one given to me by a police officer. For doing some work for him. Now here is a coin from the 97th Intelligence Squadron for the RC-135. This aircraft has just recently become declassified, or at least declassified enough that pictures are allowed to be available publicly. This coin wasn't even available to the public for a long time, but it's still really not available to the public. I only have this because a really good friend of mine was in this unit and flew on this aircraft, and he gave me this coin. And he also gave me more coins like this 4-star general coin from 4-star general work. Very cool coin. General coins or presidential coins are really hard to get. You just can't buy them. And this is another 4-star general that he gave me. This is not actually a general. This is a civilian that holds the rank of a 4-star general. And this was the Deputy Secretary of State, which at the time, I'm not sure if this individual is still current Secretary of State, but this was Higginbottom, a young woman who was very intelligent, very suited for the role. And I think maybe she might still actually be in that role. I'm not really sure. That's a good question. I'd have to research that. And the third super high ranking coin given to me by my friend Chuck, who is an officer in the Air Force, is this 4-star general coin in the shape of a dog tag. General Dempsey. Super cool. I love coins. I love coins so much that I have a collection of other coins. So this is a token at an arcade or a fair or a carnival, or it's hard to say anymore because it's not marked, but these coins that you usually have to buy are usually for video games or, some kind of game. This one I think is Putt Putt. Yep, Putt Putt, and this one's dated 1981. I went to a lot of Putt Putts when I was young. I went to a lot of video game centers in general because this is how you played video games when you were back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s, is you'd go to these arcades and you'd have to buy these coins. Now this is from a casino. This isn't from an arcade, but same concept. Windsor. But at the arcades, you had to buy these coins. They were usually a quarter. And, that's what the game would cost, but you couldn't put a quarter in. You had to get these tokens. And this was a way, this is actually from Subway. And I'm not sure exactly how I came across this. I've got a couple of these Subway tokens. I don't know what Subway, I can't imagine Subway having video games anymore, but at some time they must have. I don't actually remember playing any of those. This is from Chuck E. Cheese. This is from 2004. This really isn't all that old, but it looks wrecked. I've got a couple Chuck E. Cheese in here. Schaefer Services. This is a video game manufacturer. It's not actually an arcade. There's a Chuck E. Cheese. There's a later Chuck E. Cheese probably, or maybe an earlier. Oh, no, it is an earlier. 1981. Look at that. Yeah, 81 was the height of these video game arcades. Now, my father worked for Showbiz. My father ran one of these. He was a general manager at a Showbiz pizza place here in Columbus, Ohio, on Bethel Road, where Kroger is now. And I played video games endlessly. And it was probably a good 3 years of my life that my dad ran that business. This one's from Kingpin. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing video games there because they were free for one, but it was my dad's, It was really a lot of fun to hang out with friends. This is an Atari marked coin. This is really cool. These are probably not hard to get. You can probably find them online, I'm sure. I don't know what what this one was. This is, I don't think, from a casino. It's not a casino. I don't know what it is. Prospectors Toledo scale. Oh, this is a Toledo scale coin. It's Toledo Scale Company. Huh. Wow. 1979. So this company makes scales, basically. This was just a promotional coin. Showboat, Malibu Money. Now this one is a token for a gun room, a gun shop called the Powder Room. And this gun shop is still open here in Ohio, but in a different location, and they don't have the range anymore. This is gone. But you'd buy these tokens, and then these tokens were good for a half-hour shooting time. But at some point, they just stopped selling the tokens and just sold range time. And then this is a casino coin. This is actually a dollar coin. You go and play casino video games. Dollar video games, much more expensive. This is Pahrump, Nevada. Now these two, this would probably be a whole separate collection, but I only have two, so it's not an official collection yet. But these are pennies. And there you can see the image of the penny that was crushed to make this wafer. This one came from Disney. This is a Disney character called Thumper. One of their movies. And I believe this is a copper coin. That's why it's so reddish looking versus the goldish color that this is. This is zinc. But it's hard to say. I'm not sure exactly. This one did not come from Disney. This one came from Chicago. Just the Windy City. So when I see these, I get them, but I've only seen two in my entire life. So when I see a third one, then I'll have an official collection of crushed pennies. Oh, and just so you know, it's illegal to destroy money, and this is considered destroying money, but for whatever reason, the government overlooks destroying pennies. It becomes illegal when you burn hundreds of thousands of dollars, which I don't know why you'd do that. So my last thing I want to show you here, every time I go somewhere like a restaurant or a hotel, I pick up matchboxes or matchbooks, matches in general. A lot of people thought I was weird for doing this, but matches are very useful. This is a book that I actually picked up in Greece. These are Greek matches. And this is a little boat. This is artwork from Greece. Greek state monopoly. It's funny. But matches, obviously, are a really good way to start a fire. So if you need to start a fire, having matches is very, 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 very useful. So usually when you go to these restaurants and casinos and different places, you'll find these matches are for free. So why not take them? This was a roofing company that used the Buckeye image. So if you found a company that would make you a book of a book like this, a book of matches, not stamps. I collected stamps too. A book of matches like this, they could use iconic images like the Buckeyes to help promote your product. They licensed that through the Buckeyes. But mostly it was just a restaurant promoting themselves. This is a restaurant in Florida. And that's, most books, stamp books are going to be like that. They're just going to be a company promoting themselves. But you don't see this anymore because people they're stopping Smoking cigarettes really is something of a thing of the past, but more importantly, using matches to light your cigarettes is just unheard of anymore. I used to work at TGI Fridays over 20 years ago, back in the 90s. And so this is just something you don't see very much anymore. The Montgomery Inn. This was a really wide one because they were famous for their ribs. Yep, world's greatest ribs. And so they did this wide book because ribs are, wide. It's a gimmick. Here's a really cool one that it doesn't have any matches in it anymore. I think this came from my grandmother's house, but I just really liked this image. It's gold, desert inn with the cactus, and it's here in Columbus, Ohio. This is my home city, born and raised. Just cool images, like this one here. Mount Kenya, the Safari Club. I mean, the only way you could get this is if you went there. And this is, looks like it's in Africa, in Kenya. I think my uncle got this when he was in Africa, because I've never been to Africa. Frisch's Big Boy. And see, I don't even think you can go to Frisch's Big Boy anymore and get a book of matches. I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't been to Frisch's Big Boy in a long time, or TGI Fridays for that matter. This is a cool one. Toledo, Ohio. It's the crest. Is that a camel and an elephant? New Orleans. Here's one I got at the Air and Space Museum in Dayton. I never opened it. It's 4 books of matches, gold matchbooks with the space shuttle on it. These are really cool. They're wood. Isn't that awesome? Really high-end matches. A restaurant in California. This is a cool one. It's advertising a bourbon company. Just a really cool packaging style, and this artwork on the back. So when I was little, I made my own books of matches. My dad owned an Arthur Treacher's as well. We owned a lot of restaurants. This was another restaurant we owned. And so I made this book of matches for my dad because we didn't have the money to make a book of matches. And this was a restaurant my uncle owned. I mean, we just didn't have enough money to have our own books of matches made. So I made these when I was little because that's just how dorky I was. So once you have more than a handful of matchbooks, you kind of have to find something to put them in. And I chose this oversized Brandy Sniffer. So that is about as random an assortment of collections as I could put together for you. Thanks for watching, people. Make it a great day.
Good afternoon, madam.
Yeah, I'm sorry, officer.
Can I see your papers, please? Hello. Mummy in a bit of a hurry, was she? Step out of the car, madam! Step out of the vehicle now!